And this is a good time for anyone who has a question to please either type raise your hand, or if you want to click the little raise hand button, and then I will call on you to ask your question. If you have any questions at all about anything related to these online meetings.
Hey, Jessica, this is Linda.
Yes, Linda.
So what would you tell someone that's still a club that's just pretty much against doing a Zoom meeting or even having anything to do with it? What would be your encouragement? I know Cynthia shared that as well, encouragement, but someone that's pretty against this technology or doesn't have anyone very technology savvy in their club.
Right.
What options do they have?
Well, one piece of advice I would offer is that if you can find another club that's meeting at the same time that has started meeting on Zoom, you could have joint club meetings with them. That way you don't have to worry as much about setting up all of the technology. You can join with them and use what they have set up. And you don't necessarily, this is Jessica talking, not Toastmasters International, to be clear, but you don't necessarily have to limit yourself to our district. You could go and find other clubs in other districts too and join them and see what they're doing. I know that lots of the clubs that we're in, I'm in Rail Talkers Club 229. I know Cynthia and George are both in Greater Communicators. Cynthia's in Why Not Speak. George is in Advanced Toastmasters of Omaha. All of these clubs are meeting online, and I'm pretty confident in saying they would all be thrilled to have more people come and join their meetings to see what it's like. So that's the biggest advice that I would give. Find another club that's meeting online, join their meeting, just even sit in on it for a bit and see what it's like. And if you want to keep meeting with them, the club will probably let you. And if you want to set up your own meeting, they can probably help you. Any other thoughts, Cynthia or George?
Yeah, I would like to say that thank you, Jessica, first of all, for giving that information. But sometimes we have to go a little bit above and beyond. I had a fellow Toastmaster who just did not want, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it, I can't do it. And I'm like, yes, you can, yes, you can, yes, you can. I took the time, my time, which I had no problem doing, and walking that person through every step. She's been getting on ever since. I see you, I see you. Okay, get off. No, I want to stay on so that I don't have to do this again. And that was on Monday. Our meeting wasn't until Thursday, and I coached her through it. Keith helped me with one of my other members to try to figure out what was going on with her. She had to have a new router, but that was okay. We had enough time to get that taken care of, and she got that done, and she loved the experience. Sometimes as Toastmasters, we need to take it the next step to show what it's all about and that it's not that hard. Thank you.
I think this is a great time too to go and try to re-engage those members that have drifted away, moved away, got another job. I think it's a great time to reach out and reconnect.
Other questions? I welcome comments or other tips of your own as well. Oh, I do see some hands raised. Let's go with Marion first.
Okay, one thing, about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, we started using Zoom at Road to DTM just because we were inviting somebody. She came in from London. It was interesting, and then we tried a little bit further. The problem was you have to have enough bandwidth. We ended up having a little bit of stress that way, and any roadie that's on this call or meeting can also chime in, because you have to have the laptop to see the meeting. You have to have a camera going on, and it's more of a trick and a challenge than one might think. It's fun, but just be aware that if you're going to open up your club permanently to online attendance, you have to be technical enough to do it, or you just don't look as professional. And another consideration, if you open up membership to online members, you must have at least 51% of your membership meeting in person. So but it's fun. It's a challenge. It's doable, but you have to have the bandwidth.
And you know, bandwidth is really an issue. There are other tools out there. WebEx doesn't take the bandwidth of Zoom, but doesn't have the features. There's another one, something meeting, that's also, so if bandwidth is a real issue, which it probably shouldn't, because, you know, I'm out in a little bitty town in Carson, and I think you can see me. Well, you can't see me right now because I turned my camera off, but I think that we can connect well out here.
George, if I could respond to that, it was a club meeting at Embassy Suites, and we were using their Wi-Fi.
Right.
And when you had 4 or 5 people using their Wi-Fi, plus all their guests, that's where we ran into problem.
Yes, and that's why I'm saying there's other tools that are less easier to use on Wi-Fi.
I see Mark with his hand raised. Mark?
Yeah, just to follow up on the meeting Marion was talking about, that had been set up, and I think we were trying to use 4 devices on that Wi-Fi, and it just didn't work. What we eventually did was we used 2 laptops. Marion had hers there picking up the speaking area. Hers was also feeding into the large screen TV. I had mine there, and I was picking up the crowd, or the members. And one trick we realized, I had to mute my laptop, otherwise we got a vicious feedback. So that is another thing to think about. Right now I can hear myself talking from another room because we have 2 people, plus I think our son is probably downstairs using Wi-Fi, and we're not having a whole lot of problems with that. But you do need to have Wi-Fi or an actual landline type connection to use just about any of these platforms. Zoom is nice. We've been successful with it. And if you've got a club that's kind of leery about getting started, have them get in touch with one of the people in the district, Jessica, George, Scott, Glenn, myself, who have some experience in this. And we can set them up with an account. We can run a demo meeting with them with just a couple people to demonstrate some stuff. And let's get them meeting back again. If they're not meeting because they can't meet in person, let's help them get back to where they can meet through Zoom.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. I think lots of us would be willing to have little one-on-ones or small group meetings. And I know some clubs have done that themselves. They've set up little tests that aren't an official club meeting just to try out the technology. So that's another great tip. I see Sandy has her hand raised. Sandy?
I just want to echo what Mark was saying, that, you know, there might be, with everybody who is in the house working right now, so my daughter is homeschooling as I'm trying to do Zoom meetings for work and for Toastmasters, you're using up way more internet or Wi-Fi than what you had or what you're expecting to. And sometimes for Toastmasters or for other Zoom meetings, I just get on my phone or I connect my phone to my personal hotspot, because that's, to me, that is what provides the best outcome, is using my cellular data and my hotspot rather than being connected to the Wi-Fi, or for me to go around to my grandma and my daughter and tell them to use the cell data or to disconnect from the Wi-Fi. And so it's just a lot easier for me to do it. I like the outcome a lot better. Some people might not appreciate that or like that idea because they don't want to use cell data, because we are all programmed to use the Wi-Fi, not cell data. However, a lot of us have unlimited data anyways. And to me personally, I found out that that's been the best outcome.
Yeah, that's a good tip. I know I personally use Wi-Fi and it works fine for me, but it may differ for each person. Bill, you have a question or comment?
Question. On the number of attendees to a Zoom, if we're contemplating adding more members of other clubs also, is there logical number that we should attain. Obviously, if you have a great deal of people on a meeting, it may become more cumbersome for everyone to become involved and in limited time. So is there a target number that maybe we should contemplate? That was the question.
Oh, go ahead, George. George first.
We have 24 on this meeting, and it's working well. I would really talk about doing one thing, though, Bill, and that's you should have a Zoom master. Just as you have a sergeant at arms at your meetings, you need a Zoom master to make this work. So you should have somebody who is muting people, they're a host, they can do all that. If you have that, then your number could be really big. I think Zoom says we can go up to 100.
I will add too that my gut says that the recommendations that Toastmasters has for a normal club size would apply just as well. The 20 to 30 range is what you usually want to aim for in an in-person meeting. My sense is that's the same for online. That still allows participation without being overwhelming. And I also want to comment on what George said about having somebody who's in charge of the meeting. If you're using the district's account or someone else's account that's not your own, the person who owns the account can supply a host key. I've been having one person in the club, each club that I give the host key to, one trusted individual, and they become the Zoom master. They can then use that host key to claim host. Glenn is host in our meeting right now, and that gives that person the ability to mute everyone, to unmute everyone. It lets them control who can share their screen. It lets them do all kinds of things that help keep the meeting running smoothly. So if you do not have a host key and you're using someone else's Zoom account, reach out to the person whose Zoom account you're using and see if you can get the host key. Other questions or comments? Glenn.
I have a comment that if you have a way to wire your internet connection that is better if you're having problems with the bandwidth, because the more things that you make wireless, the more things that are competing with that connection. So I would highly recommend getting one of those, and they call it an Ethernet cable, and you connect one end to that router, physically connect, and then you physically connect it to your device then, and that is the best, and I would recommend that also for speech contestants as well. Back to you.
Jessica?
Yes, Randy?
Let me just second what Glenn just said. After having that Ethernet connection suggested to me, I went out and bought a cable yesterday, and I've connected it up this morning, and man, things are so much better in terms of bandwidth, in terms of getting things speedier to load and all of that. So by all means, get the Ethernet cable. Now, this one, I only, there's different levels of the Ethernet cables. The only one I could find in the store I went to, which was probably not the best source, but I got a Cat 5. I think you want to go up as high as Cat 7 or 8 if you can get a cable of that size. And I'm talking like I know what I'm talking about. I probably don't, but nevertheless, it's my experience that the higher the number that you can get, the probably better off you're going to be.
Yeah, and I will say, Randy, to me at least, your video looks better now than it did before.
Thank you. Thank you.
I saw Marion with her hand up. Marion? Still muted.
Yeah, I was online yesterday with the contest for contestants and things like that in your backgrounds. I would like Glenn to come back on because he's using a virtual background. And if everyone goes to the stop video, the little caret pointing up, you can put in a choose virtual background. Now, if you look at Glenn's picture. You can see Jessica right now and everything's sharp. But if you look at Glenn as he moves, he wobbles. There's a disconnect. If you're doing a presentation or you're on Zoom and you're the main presenter, I would not use a virtual background, although when he used the one from Toastmasters International, I did not see that. But these other virtual backgrounds that are free, yeah, they're a little bit dicey because they move around. Yeah, see, but even there, when he's moving, you can, wow. Yeah, good job, Glenn, good job. That's my demonstration, thank you.
Yes, that's an excellent point. The virtual backgrounds can be a lot of fun, but they're problematic too. I found that for myself, my face is very white and my wall is very white, so it thought that they were all part of my background and my face turned colors when I tried them out. I see that Mark has a comment or question. Mark?
A couple of comments. One, to drop back to Bill's questions. One of the things you want to do is at the beginning of your first meeting, make sure that you emphasize respect. Part of being respectful on a Zoom meeting is to mute unless you are talking. And it's a little bit different situation, but you would not expect people to be talking to each other in a normal meeting. The way you handle that, they need to mute so their dog doesn't start talking. And then what you might notice with Glenn right now, if you can see him, he has a green background that he is attached to his chair. That is helpful with the virtual backgrounds. If you can see my virtual my real background behind me, if I put on a virtual background, I kind of disappear into it because my background is too busy for the virtual background to do the green screen effect. So that's another thing to keep in mind. What I've said to people is use a background you're comfortable with. I'm comfortable with you seeing the office I work in during the week, which is right back there. Enough said.
Yeah, and I have noticed just looking around that some of you have started putting up different backgrounds. I know Jacob in particular used to have some nice Chicago Cubs memorabilia behind him, and now he has a curtain behind him to keep from that being distracting. Other questions or comments?
Jessica?
Yes, Randy.
Just another comment about the use of virtual backgrounds. They're kind of fun and you can put a lot of stuff up there, but we did our first Zoom meeting for River City on Monday, and the club member who was the timer, when he used a virtual background, and when he tried to hold up the cards, you couldn't see the cards with the virtual background. So we had to have him turn all of that all off so he could see that. So, you know, virtual backgrounds are fun, but for the most part, if you're going to be effective in a meeting, particularly if you're giving presentations, I'd say turn them off because you're better off without them.
Yeah, I think that's generally good advice. It really just depends on the setup. I've seen mixed experiences with people using them. Prem, for example, was in our 229 meeting the other day, and she had a very nice virtual background of the beach, and it was fine. It worked fine for her. So it just depends on the setup you have, I think. Yes, Gary.
Well, I've tried virtual backgrounds, and what I came up with was putting cardboard behind on my window so the light wouldn't come in from behind me. So this is what you would see if the shades were up. Also, I put paper over my lights, which are overhead. They're supposed to be in front of you, but I don't have that right now. And I'm recently unemployed, so I'm not going to be buying anything. So I have, and I'm not going to show you, but I have printer paper attached to my lights overhead to keep from the glare, try to reduce some of the glare.
Yeah, that's excellent. Creative solutions are great. Does anyone else have creative solutions for how you set up your space? Anyone else doing anything interesting that you'd like to share?
There was a couple of questions in the chat. And one
Oh,
of
yes,
them
I see
was,
that. Recommendation for a
okay.
webcam. I'm just using the webcam that's built into my laptop. Other suggestions for webcams? Not hearing any. Sandy?
I have noticed that the information that Glenn has been providing on his personal Facebook page has been very helpful. Such as, one is, I have been lifting my laptop or my phone, whatever I'm presenting from, up on a box so that it's facing either directly at me or a little bit down for me, and I can adjust the camera view so that nobody can see like under my chin or up my nose or something like that. The other one for the other idea that I have is that I don't have a circle light that some people recommend to have facing towards you. So what I have done is I've taken just a regular table lamp and put it down on his side and used the lamp shade and directed that towards me. And that's what I'm going to be using to present with later today. So I hope that turns out well.
All right, and I did see a couple of suggestions in the chat as well. Marion wants to know how much the Logitech costs. Glenn or Mark? Yes, Mark.
I've had mine for quite a while, and I'm not sure if it's the same brand or same model as Glenn's, but it was between $20 and $25, tax included, and if you can find them, it might come down from there. I have heard that there is a toilet paper-like shortage of webcams currently.
Yes, Glenn?
Yes, I was going to say the same thing as Mark just said, that the Logitech Brio is the most popular of the webcams, but it's also the one that is most likely to be out of stock, and it has 4K video. If you're familiar with your television sets that come out now, 4K is the highest resolution available, and that's what I'm using right now is the Logitech Brio, but I happened to get that a year or two ago, and so I have no problem with using it. But if you can't find that one, there's many Logitech brand webcams that are available online, and the Brio one is the highest end, so that's almost $200, I think, the last I checked. But for a regular webcam, Mark is right that you can get something for probably less than $50 in general, and it would do the basics of what you need.
Very good. Maybe one more question or comment? Any last thoughts? Oh, Scott's got something. Take it away, Scott.
Paying for a Zoom account might be hard for some of the smaller clubs. I know Offutt would have trouble with it. Are there Zoom accounts that the district has that can be shared or that we can use? And how do you typically pay for it? Do you, like, if you do have a club that has one, does everyone just chip in extra and then you do it, take it out of the club dues, or are there certain accounts that we can share?
There are accounts to share. If you go to d24tm.org, there's a Zoom bookings page where you can book time on the district's account, and that calendar shows when it's in use, so you can see if your club meeting time is available or not. And then Mark and Glenn are also offering up personal accounts, so if the time that you want is booked there, you can contact Mark or Glenn. And actually later today, I plan to list which clubs are using their accounts and at what time as well. So if you go to d24tm.org and you go to that Zoom booking page, you should be able to find what you need. If you still need help finding the time, if all 3 accounts are taken at the time that you need, then you can reach out to me and we'll try to work something out. You may want to consider joining in with another club. I've heard tips about how you can even use breakout rooms. You can have 2 clubs using the same meeting at the same time, but each go into a different breakout room. And I've heard that's kind of cool because then you can have like a multi-club kind of social time and then you go off to your separate meetings, and then you come back again at the end. So there are definitely ways to make that work. Any other comments?
Thank you.
All right. Well, I think that's it for our online meeting tips. Of course, if you think of any other questions, please reach out to any of us. I'll type yep, there Mark's got his email. I'll type in the PRM account as well that you can email if you have additional questions. Oops, I sent it just to Mark. Everyone in meeting.